Yeah, you can't fake skateboarding. You could fake a bunch of stuff or talk about a bunch of stuff on a rap song or a rock song or a metal song, but yeah, skateboarding, there's no Pro Tools.
In the late 1970s in Venice, California, teenagers took their surfboards curbside and began experimenting in the streets with small wooden boards and clay wheels.
Take a ride with all my friends. And my mom says I'm a cocksucker like my old man.
At the same time, on the opposite side of the country, in the burned-out ghettos of the Bronx, street kids began moving away from the gangs and violence that plagued New York City, gravitating instead towards a new street culture of art, music, and dance. It would take years, but the passion of a few would drive these two subcultures together to form an entirely new one, a new movement created by kids that would forever change the face of popular culture, a movement that would find itself embedded on every corner in every city across the globe. In the mid-70s, engulfed by an urban metropolis, a graffiti writer from the Upper West Side emerged.
There's a guy named Mark Edmonds who was a graffiti writer who wrote Ali. And he was the ringleader of a gang of real little kids who all grew up on the Upper West Side of New York and who all skateboarded and all wrote graffiti.
New York was on the edge. It was as edgy as you could possibly imagine. It was like pre-punk rock, and it was the mid-70s. We were an economic disaster. The blackout was a couple years away, and things were falling apart right around us.
Everybody had a pilot, a mini-wide, a uni-wide. Everybody was writing graffiti.
Basically, all these kids did was go and skateboard, rip apart construction sites, build little quarter pipes, and then skate around the city and do all their tags.
Despite skateboarding's prevalence in mainstream culture today, at its roots, skateboarding started as a transportation tool for a small group of New York City street kids.
Growing up in New York or New Jersey, you had to seek it out really hard. You know, you had to like find and dig.
I'd walk home through Washington Square Park sometimes, and I'd see like some long-haired weirdo dude skateboarding around. And I'd go to Central Park and see it too. And it started to kind of get more and more popular. You'd see it more and more. And this is literally when dudes had clay wheels still.
Even if you heard the sound of someone skateboarding, you would skate for blocks and blocks trying to chase the sound. You know, it ends up being a guy pushing a shopping cart or something like that. But there was so few people around doing it that we all linked together.
There were rats and roaches everywhere, and it was just, you know, it was really wild, like it was reckless.
Rivalry, there was clannish.
You got people like, you know, especially black skateboarders, and they're like, some kids are like, yo, why are you doing that white boy stuff? And it wasn't even that. They were just like, what is that? It had nothing to do with like, you know, any sort of race. They were just like, what are you doing, kid?
In New York City, you were a complete outsider. You know, you were on some weird shit.
Kids who lived in West Beth, which was near IS-70, my friend Carl and a bunch of other kids, they had a little quarter pipe, and we'd skate the quarter pipe up against the wall and have a sticker contest. This is when we first started to actually hit vert.
New York has always been known for its cultural diversity, and as the 1980s approached, people of all races came together for New York City's infamous block parties.
We're from what was a very cohesive downtown scene that incorporated skateboarding, incorporated nightlife, incorporated DJs and going out and parties, and really an environment of hanging out with each other.
Skateboarding was the vehicle in which a lot of kids that were into all these different subcultures moved around the city to experience it.
In certain neighborhoods, they would literally, you know, shut the block down and, you know, set up the barbecue and, you know, everybody playing and cooking and stuff like that.
If there were jams, like the notorious like Jam in the Park, the sound system getting run out of a light post, there were a lot of those, a lot of block parties.
You know, the skateboarders, when they were done skateboarding, they wanted to get some music on. The graffiti artists did the same. And if they were tired bombing, they wanted to get down, hear some music. Music, everybody loves music.
basketball courts or the baseball fields. You know, they would set up the whole setup, and cats would perform and DJ and stuff like that.
I would just be skating, so I got to hear a lot of really dope DJs.
You had rich kids from the Upper East Side interacting with Puerto Rican kids from the Lower East Side, interacting with black kids from Brooklyn. And it was a special cultural soup.
With the late 70s punk rock movement flooding New York's subculture, it was a natural fit for rebellious skate kids to embrace the style and music of the underground punk scene.
The punk rock thing started happening a little bit. And I remember my friend Raul and this kid Jesse got kind of new waved out, and Puppet too.
Punk look was what was really going on, and we could all relate to each other because we were all outcasts.
Punk rock was synonymous with skateboarding at that time. Pretty much like the New York City hardcore was synonymous to me from what I saw with skateboarding.
It was much more about Doc Martens than it was about Adidas.
I only listened to punk rock because I would read it in Thrasher magazine, and that's what they told me. I mean, I had to listen to.
It was kind of like, fuck the world, whatever. We hate the police, we hate authority. All that type of stuff is what I was into.
The Clash made Clash City Rockers or Magnificent Seven.
Futura 2000 is in the Radio Clash video. You know, the whole video is about him stealing paint and writing graffiti.
And then Blondie made Rapture. The fact that Fab Five Freddy's even mentioned in Rapture. For me, it's a hip-hop record because I heard it on Mr. Magic's Rap Attack.
From the angry hip-hopper point of view, it was synonymous with punk rock.
Hip-hop traditionally was punk music for kids that were into doing their own thing, doing a very individual thing where they could innovate and show their own style. Hip-hop made as much sense as, you know, punk.
I remember meeting Doze, and Doze was into skating too. And he was in Rocksteady crew, but he skated. And slowly but surely, we became more and more into being B-boys. So we're skating, but we're like skater B-boys, kind of.
With the emergence of hip-hop, skaters found a new sound to represent the urban landscape, one that better represented their culture.
Somewhere around that time, I started to hear Eric B. and Rakim, Public Enemy, of course KRS-One and BDP. I mean, you know, I didn't know what the hell the bridge was, but I knew the bridge was over at that point.
We're on the same corner. You know, we're asking someone to get off that block so we can skate the block. We all had little ciphers when we grew up, like rapping to see how long you can go.
All of a sudden, Run DMC came out, and it was like it changed everything. We're like, oh shit, a group that kind of dresses like dudes on the street. They don't look like a broke P-Funk. And we related to that, like way more than Melly Mel and the like broke P-Funk look.
Skateboarding is skateboarding, right? Wrong. If you're a city dweller, skating takes on certain elements you may not find elsewhere. Police harassment around the clock, crowds, and traffic. But all this just adds to your creativity. And if you look at it right, even New York is really a skate park.
It's a way of being creative. It's a way of expressing yourself. And I really don't know any other sport that's quite the same, you know?
It may surprise some people, but skaters in New York say they're much more easygoing than their counterparts in California.
In the West, it seems it's a lot of too competition-minded, like win, lose, like it's like that there. Here, it's more like friendly, it's for fun, more or less.
There, they worry too much about fashion, what their clothes look like, how their hair is going to be combed that day. But if they got the right shoes on,
they don't know what it's like to go skate in the middle of snow or like go get chased by bums in a hood. They don't know that.
New York skaters found hip-hop to be the anthem they were searching for. While the skateboard industry continued to embrace punk rock, the skaters emerging from New York were better represented by hip-hop.
Punk music totally faded away. To me, the feeling that I got and the rhythm that came from the beats of hip-hop music felt so much to me like the clack, clack, clack of skating down a sidewalk and hitting a bench, or, you know, jumping a little hip or whatever, you know. It just all seemed to flow together.
And it was just this gritty, you know, it's about the music. The music got you hyped, you know, the graffiti got you pumped, you know, you're doing art, and it was just like, that was what skateboarding was on the East Coast. It wasn't nice, it was dirty.
That was synonymous with living in New York, was your hip hop or whatever. It wasn't a premeditated kind of like, you know, marketing ploy if you have it. That wasn't the deal at all.
Street culture that was happening, hip hop was growing and becoming widespread and known throughout the world. Skateboarding was not, but our affiliation with hip hop, we were very inspired by what was being said.
By 1986, New York City was home to dozens of skaters. But with Skate magazine showcasing nothing but punk rock, these kids would go unrepresented until one photo would begin a shift.
The first skater that I saw actually putting a stamp on it that I looked up to was Nadas Kaupas. It sticks out like the Empire State Building, that photograph of him doing a melancholy at the Venice hip, and it blew my mind. I was like, one of my favorite skateboarders is rocking a Public Enemy shirt.
We went and saw Public Enemy, and we were super psyched on it. We got concert tees and stickers and stuff from the Palladium.
I remember me and Nadas were like, yeah, we're gonna skate to BE, that's gonna be sick, you know?
I just thought then it was like a change because they were the first people to be like, we skate, we're pro, and we like hip hop.
You know, no one skated to hip hop in contests. It just didn't happen.
All these dudes like first waving that hip hop flag, I was like, you know what? We ain't screwed up over here, and I don't gotta listen to that whack, bang your head music or whatever. Like, I could play this at the contest.
To me, they were like the greatest band to skate to. Like, I loved skating to the second Public Enemy record. That was just like pure aggression. And they kind of like, before rock rap was invented, had the energy of rock and roll within hip hop, and I think that related to a lot of skaters, whether they know it or not, you know?
With hip-hop culture on the rise, kids began congregating in Washington Square Park.
Washington Square Park was a huge catalyst for both hip-hop and skateboarding.
We'd all meet there, congregate there, and skate all the time after school.
Washington Square Park was like a cesspool of beauty.
I think the park was like safe zone because it was just, I don't know, it was almost felt like a weird downtown commune where you'd have, you know, BMXers, skaters, skinheads.
There was everything there. Musicians, squatters, skaters, hippies, skinheads, what have you. And the beautiful part about this cesspool was that everyone got along.
Basically, every Saturday and Sunday, every kid in the city from all 5 boroughs was going to Washington Square Park, and you'd see circles of people emceeing and freestyling or battling, and kids breakdancing.
Hip hop is obviously a very big influence in all of our lives growing up, especially here in New York. But it is undeniably a big influence in street culture.
Why did hip hop start? You had all these kids on the street not knowing what to do with themselves. So they started, instead of getting into trouble, they started, listening to these loud beatboxes and dancing in the street.
It wasn't like, boom, all of a sudden it's here. It was just something that just sort of spawned from people hanging out.
It's a soundtrack to a lot of us urban kids' life, like, you know what I mean?
Jungle Brothers, Tribe, De La.
Hip-hop was starting to take over the culture, and it became the soundtrack to what we're all doing.
It went hand in hand because you played music, either you were dancing and b-boying, or you skated and you were amped and you were doing like little tricks, wall rides, or like some kind of boneless off of a car, you know, but it was because of the sound from the radio that was playing got you amped to do these things, and it was just like soap and water.
The skateboard community has already said with a loud and clear voice, we are part of the hip hop community.
Regardless if it was 1986 or if it's 1996, for you to be listening to hip hop in your Walkman or on your fucking boombox at your skate spot is just like, it's organic. It's not like it's, it's expected maybe, say, if you're fucking from LA and you listen to The Descendants or fucking Butthole Surface. Like, that's just a given, just like listening to hip hop in New York City being a skateboarder is a fucking given.
In the 1970s, when skateboarding was almost an exclusively white activity, a black couple from New Jersey embraced their son's passion, and in the process, set into motion the East Coast's first black pro skaters.
Fuck y'all niggas up!
We didn't know anything about skateboards. And just out of a clear blue sky, he picked up on it.
I was sort of like the outcast, so not that close with most family members, but I was always about doing my thing.
I remember Rodney, my godbrother, skating.
Anything Rodney was into, Chris was into.
My parents had gotten divorced, so it's just my mom, and she worked all the time, so I was like, fuck that, I'm staying with this family because I have like brothers and sisters and like skateboards and all this cool stuff. you know? So I wound up just staying with Rodney for like years.
And he was like ours. He was,
Yeah, he's my baby.
Most people thought he was ours.
I had a quarter pipe in my backyard, which was connected to a basketball court, and then we built this little makeshift roll-in, and that's what we had. And I had that in the backyard and moved my way up to having a half pipe.
I worked at a lumber yard, and I had access to trucks, flatbed trucks. So Rodney asked me one day, he said, "Dad, you think I could have a ramp in the yard?" I thought it was, you know, a little ramp. Each week, they would add another foot to this thing. It had to be up to this picture window when they got finished. It had to be close to the top of this house. I think you have to find out exactly what they want to do, but you show support in any way you can.
What I've picked up from skateboarding is something that I think the whole world has never even got a chance to embrace due to certain religious boundaries, racial boundaries, and just a whole lot of BS.
There wasn't too many Cubans, I could say, skateboarding when I started. There wasn't too many ethnicities.
I never really heard any racist type of shit on a skateboard. Like, I never heard, like, you fucking nigger from a white skater to a black skater, or you fucking stupid white boy. Like, I never heard that shit before. We were segregated within our own ethnic community. Like, you're a black dude, you're riding a skateboard with the white kids, get off that white boy shit.
You think you white?
Why are you doing such a white boy sport?
Oh, you doing that white boy shit, like that's a no-no right there.
I was sitting on the couch and I saw a commercial and there was a kid with a skateboard and I was like, whoa, I want a skateboard. And I held an image of having a skateboard. And I asked my father, like, Dad, can I have a skateboard? And he was like, nah, man, that's not for you, that's for white kids.
And you can't let that peer pressure burn you up because it will eat you alive.
I never really thought of any friction at the skate parks between the different kids or the different races or whatever, because each skate park was in its own place in terms of what sort of community it was around it. I live in San Diego, so it's pretty white.
There wasn't that many skateboarders in my school, but you could see the diversity and the segregation, you know.
All the Chinese kids would hang out together, the Filipinos all hung out together, the white kids hung out together, the black kids all hung out together, and the skaters were all mixed races all hanging out together.
You can be any color you want, and skaters are down with you. But if you don't skate, we hate you.
For me, skateboarding broke every racial and cultural and even socioeconomic, barrier that I could ever foresee, and it opened a world to me that included every race.
This video is for all those fake ass bullshit skateboarders coming through, talking about representing New York. Ain't know where Malali's is. Don't know where the banks are. Never heard of Benji's in the project. Ain't hear about no shut. Y'all don't know what shut is. Fuck my dick, yo.
As skateboarding continued to grow in popularity, especially on the West Coast, a group of New York skaters, led by Rodney Smith, decided to start their own team. Frustrated with the lack of East Coast hip-hop-driven representation, Shut was formed and driven to represent a whole new identity in skateboarding.
I feel Shut Skateboarders is important to the history of skating because they are at the hip-hop element, and they created that.
Turning point in New York City was like when the Shut crew pretty much was, they were like the shit.
When you saw them together, you know they were just like some crazy ass dudes, you know? They were young, they were drinking, they were wilding out, they were having fun.
If I didn't ride for Powell, I'd ride for Shut, Just because they were so cool, what they were doing was so cool, and it was, I had, the sort of the like-mindedness, the whole hip-hop and graffiti and all that stuff and what was going down in the music and stuff like that.
While the West Coast primarily vert-oriented skateboarding dominated the scene, the Shut team was skating New York City's raw urban landscape. Due to the conditions of the streets, New York skaters required an entirely different design of skateboard, one that could withstand a variety of conditions that the city streets presented.
Rod was always like tinkering with stuff and making boards and stuff, so it wasn't really very surprising for me. It was just kind of like a natural progression.
Unfortunately, we were so frustrated with the lack of quality within the boards, we thought there had to be a better way.
Bought a bunch of blanks, and we took them up on my roof, and we used like milk crates and my mom's jigsaw, and we traced all these shapes, and each of us basically had our own shape.
So we head over to Ollie's house. He says, hey, I got a jigsaw, and we'll come up with some shapes, and let's see what happens.
You know, basically we all just create our dream shapes. You know, necessity is the mother of invention.
And we start cutting.
Wow, I really like the Dogtown web, and I really like the Nodus board, so I'm gonna make a pointy web with a Rob Roscop tail.
We still couldn't figure out why these uncut boards that we purchased and made our own shapes were better than professional boards sold in the skateboarding shops. But at that point, we didn't care. We just knew that we had a slightly better product and that the boards lasted a little longer, and we still got the same performance or even better performance out of these uncut boards than we did with the professional sold boards.
And then some of them ended up sticking, and you know, when Rod and Bruno turned Shut into a business, you know, they ended up becoming like kind of staple shapes.
Now that Shut had become an official skate team, they went on the road, not only proving their skills to their West Coast competitors, but bringing their unique style to the sport as well.
And I remember seeing these dudes and I was like, what the fuck? Who the hell are these dudes, you know?
It was sort of like hearing about the ill b-boy crew or the ill graffiti crew. It had that same vibe.
You know, you heard all the stories, but was you there?
We would just like take over an entire location, you know? And Sheffy would be like wilding out, and he was this huge buff black dude that would skate with no shirt.
Shut Posse was really, really deep. The core nucleus of it that was actually competing was Barker Barrett, Coco Santiago, Mike Kepper, Mike Kelly.
The boombox and like Sheffy with his crazy hair, and like, you know, everyone was like, dude, the big ass black dudes are here, you know?
It was like they were rich, famous, and fucking touring all over the world, even though it was like a local skate clique that was like ill at skateboarding.
They always had the chicks, they had the beers, they had the crew. They were always in their one spot, and nobody messed with them, and they do their little skate thing.
The first experience I had with the Shut guys was at this AM contest in Arizona, and these guys were just killing it. You know, they were skating the rail, they were skating the mini ramp, they were skating the blocks, and then, like, you know, Sheffy was full powerhouse guy, Kepper was there, and I was just like, this is the East Coast.
Well, what's up, nigga?
But at the time, it was just like, we were just this big clique of like ethnic, urban kids, city kids, product of our own environment. We were like in athletic gear, jeans, sweatpants. You know, it wasn't that staple skateboard outfit.
They just seemed like a street gang.
They're just grimy. I loved it.
With the growth of hip-hop and the advent of street skating, even the West Coast vert skaters began to see a cultural shift.
The winds were changing downtown for sure, and not just in skateboarding and not just in hip-hop. There seemed to be somewhat of a cultural shift going on.
I think back then, skateboarding was, in the street instance of it, was still coming up. Vert was just getting ready to die.
When hip-hop started, skateboarding was kind of, in the 1980s, was coming down off of its huge swing of being a gigantic skate park-based skateboard madness, Tony Alva, that whole Dogtown scene and all that like superstarism that was going on, and it sort of like retired to backyard ramps, kind of like still trying to find itself.
The street skating, you know, took off probably when the skate parks started closing down, you know, as just a necessary outlet.
And I remember the day that Thrasher magazine, I went over there and they showed me the cover that said Vert was dead. I was like, you guys are just gonna kill it like that? It's insane.
Everywhere was like, oh, I don't need to build a huge wooden U in my backyard, you know?
You had these companies, Vision, Powell Peralta, Santa Cruz, who basically operated the whole structure of their company around the ramp god, the Tony Hawk, the Christian Hosoi, the Gator, you know? But were basically earning all their dough and getting all their heat from the small but growing street skater populace.
Suddenly the world was a skate park. You know, your driveway, your street, everything around you could be skated on. And the skate parks were closing at a breakneck pace. You know, no skate park could have, they couldn't afford liability insurance. They were all in random locations that people didn't have access to. Nobody wanted to get pads, you know, they just wanted to go skate. And all of a sudden, guys like Tommy and Nodus showed up, and it was like, you can ride a handrail. Are you kidding me?
With the death of the vert gods and closing of all skate parks, the skate industry collapsed into near bankruptcy. In a desperate attempt to save themselves, the major skate companies began to grab for anything to keep them afloat. And that thing was street skating.
The whole Shut thing, which was like all of the New York City skateboarders trying to like make their little company, had the exact same story from the Dogtown Z-Boys story. All these guys, they got so famous and they were just destroying shit, the California skateboard companies just completely stole all the skaters and the company went out of business.
During this period, on the West Coast, a growing movement of street skaters began a changing of the guard in San Francisco.
Embarcadero it's an area of San Francisco down by the waterfront. And it was dubbed EMB, was its nickname.
Before it got famous, it was just this nice little community of just skaters, just dudes kind of not really partying, but just living.
You would have like this big conflict between the skaters and all of these business people that bring in a lot of tax dollars and money to the city.
People down there smoking blunts and smoking weed, and then just 40s out skating around with 40s and stuff. Dudes skating around with their shirts off.
The beginning of the Embarcadero era, like Thrasher magazine and Transworld never shot photos of us.
Kind of looked down upon by all the people in the magazines, like Thrasher magazine and all that. They used to hate on us.
They were more still kind of like, in a sense, like the earlier generation of street skating, which was kind of like more of the gnarly side, more of like you bomb hills and kind of the gnarl side, as opposed to like this kind of like more technical type of skateboarding.
And I think the reason why like Thrasher magazine, even if it was in San Francisco, didn't come down was the same reason why the older guys hated on us, because it was the next generation.
Regardless of who tried to stop this new movement, the street influence grew at Embarcadero and flourished in the process.
Embarcadero basically became, in the 90s, it, for various reasons, became the mecca of skateboarding for the whole world.
San Francisco and New York have a lot of similarities to it, and there's a lot of people who come and go between cities quite a bit.
Everyone from the East Coast, we realized, was just like us, because all these guys came down. Harold Hunter, Justin Pierce, Keenan Milton, Stephen Callis. You know, they show up at Embarcadero, gold teeth, skating in Timberlands, you know, puffy jackets, and we're like, wow, these guys are crazy. First time I seen a skater with the gold grill, it was like in '92 or something.
Literally, you had hundreds, if not thousands, of kids that were trying to come to San Francisco from all over the world. I mean, there would be days down there when you go down there, there'd be 300 to 500 people down there.
A skater from Virginia Beach who grew up writing graffiti and listening to hip-hop saw the potential of street culture and skateboarding pioneered by Shut. Using his position as a professional skateboarder, he took this idea to the next level.
Underworld Element wasn't about skateboards as much as it was about a lifestyle and everything that was involved in that.
Andy Howell could have been from New York City.
The videos were such a powerful tool in skateboarding at that time. I could put, you know, songs I made with Lil Jon on my video part and combine it with whatever other outtakes of, like, you know, studio or writing graffiti or my artwork in the house or whatever. And I started to paint a picture of a lifestyle to every kid out there that didn't really get a chance to see that.
He went and sponsored Harold Hunter and Jeff Pang and like a lot of the hot New York kids who were on the come up.
I just went back to when I was 14 years old, and I wanted to know what Tony Hawk and Caballero and those guys did when they weren't riding skateboards. You know, I was interested in what their lives were like as much as I was interested in what tricks they did at the time, you know. And that drove me creatively throughout my whole career as being involved in skateboarding.
At the same time, a young black skater from New York City moved to the West Coast and began turning heads with his unique style and skills.
One of my biggest influences, like, coming up in skateboarding was Cream Campbell. But not only was he a black skater, but he brought his community into our community through the advertisement, through his videos. You really got the first urban feel in skateboarding from Cream.
He brought his whole ethnicity, his whole background into it.
He's as real as it gets when you talk about like street and hood and stuff.
Of course, there have been plenty of black skaters in the past, but no one that I thought stood out so much in the way that Cream did, that was really taking a new direction.
When he was at his peak, he definitely was like one of the big pros in skateboarding, just as a personality.
Cream was as big as it gets.
He didn't blow up because he was black, he blew up because his talent and his style was so fucking nasty that motherfuckers you had to recognize.
He's just like, you know, a skateboard OG.
He set a crazy foundation. Cause them was the dudes who just like, was fighting for it to be cool before me. You know what I mean? Like they was the ones grinding it out. When it wasn't accepted in our community, it was the ones who was doing all the foundation. I didn't do nothing but just set a house on it.
He just came on the scene and killed it. He was totally this fresh young face and just a ripper. And his style was so smooth and he was so good that he just blew everybody away. And the fact that he happened to be black, he happened to be black.
In 1993, Rodney Smith, Eli Morgan Gessner, and their friend Adam Schatz teamed to form the East Coast's first skateboarding-inspired lifestyle brand, Zoo York.
Zoo York was a major part of like promoting like hip hop with skateboarding, you know, because to me, there's only been a couple brands in the history of skateboarding that have been hip hop brands.
We raised a very small amount of money from friends and family.
Rodney did shut skates in New York City for a long time, and then finally after working we got money and got investors and, you know, trying to do our thing on the East Coast.
A lot of positive things was happening. A lot of things were coming out of skateboarding. We were starting to reap the benefits of that hard labor.
Zoo was already in motion, like the fucking coals were being put in Zoo's fucking steam engine.
Eli and I continued working at our day jobs and doing it essentially as a moonlight, which we did for a couple of years.
All the money we make goes right back into developing and furthering the company. So we're gonna just like keep expanding because we just started and we have like such a huge demand for our stuff and we're really small and don't have any other company backing us. So it's really tough for us to keep like coming out with new product all the time, and that's just all we're doing. It's like a mad scramble.
Rodney was like, yeah, I'm trying to kickstart the Zoo York thing. It's gonna be ill kid. Ivo was gonna hit it. I was like, all right, cool, yeah, that's dope. It's like, you gonna get down, right? I was like, yeah, all right, I'll be down.
Who's on the team?
Who's on the team?
Yeah. Ricky Oyola, Jeff Pang, Ryan Hickey, Bobby Pulio, Mike Hernandez, myself, Robbie Gangemi, Frank Natanelli, and Jamie Story. True, East Coast doing our thing, you know. I mean, like,
wait, what's up?
House Fluto, you know what I'm saying?
How flow?
House Flow.
Oh, how Hunter right there.
Why?
Everybody say Zoo York! Zoo York! Zoo York! Zoo York!
That was the real deal. They were skating in New York, they were skating in Brooklyn. You know, people couldn't touch that in California.
The creator of Zoo had hip-hop backgrounds. You know, we came across in the company from graffiti to the association with the riders.
Late 90s at Zoo York, we started to get involved with various media projects.
Zoo York, hands down, has one of the greatest videos ever created in skateboarding history.
The whole basis of it was to do what we did from the beginning, which was to represent New York City street culture.
Eli single-handedly taped every dope hip-hop song ever before they became the dopest hip-hop song ever.
In some of the early videos that we put out, we incorporated live hip-hop performances and DJ performances in our skateboard videos.
Bobito and I, you had this radio show. It was just sort of a week-to-week thing we were thrilled to be doing.
Method Man, Ghostface, Diamond D, Busta Rhymes.
I never learned that trick in my life.
The chemistry was great. We all had great communication, and we all looked at Zoo York as much more than a company or a job or a place.
In New York, whether you want to or not, you're gonna have hip-hop influences. Whether you're the punkest kid walking down the street or not, like, you know, if you're from New York, you have that in you.
Anytime you looked at an ad, you always knew it was New York. It was like, there was no doubt that that's where it was from, and that's, you know, where these ads were being taken at.
Big shout on the East Coast.
I think that it helped really pushed the image onto people and had it stick.
In the mid-90s, Chad Muska would enter the skateboard scene. With a unique style both on and off his board heavily influenced by urban culture, Muska would help redefine what skateboarding was to be.
In the mid-90s, when I first was coming up, I was this white kid showing up, you know, wearing jerseys and rolled up swooshy pants and a ghetto blaster and, you know, making beats and all this shit I was doing, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Nah, I'm saying word up. I'm on this motherfucker right now with my man Chad. Best time that I ever had, you know what I'm saying? From the head to the feet, motherfucker Muska beat.
Muska beats, coming through with them.
I met like my homeboy Chad Muska, you know what I mean? And he's like a professional skater. He get paid crazy money, you know what I mean? Chad actually did a rap album.
Muska is hip hop, as far as I'm concerned. I listened to his album. I heard Africa Bambaataa on it. Oh, KRS is on it. Oh, Kaz, Wu-Tang. Oh.
Chad would then go on to produce Muska Beats, a self-financed hip-hop album.
We got the portable studio together, set it up in the hotel, and everybody just came through and laid their tracks right there.
From hip-hop being a part of my life this whole time, I was always DJing and all that stuff, and I started making beats.
I didn't try to just grab anybody out there that was a rapper, you know? I tried to grab people that, to me, made a major influence on hip-hop culture and music.
Basically, my whole goal with this project is to take the people that inspired me growing up and introduce them to the skateboard community.
Muska was ahead of his time. If he would have did that shit now, oh, it'd be a rap. But Muska was just so far ahead of his time. And I even told Muska, I said, man, if you would have did that shit now, ooh.
As hip-hop and skateboarding both reached mainstream popularity, a small club in Manhattan began showcasing these two very unique art forms together under one roof.
That was just some next level shit, to have a skateboard ramp in a club and the skaters just have free reign.
The tunnel, I remember there being a half pipe. In the early days, right before like the tunnel was full on ghetto, but it was definitely hip hop.
It was just beyond anybody's wildest imagination. I don't even think they knew what they were really doing.
There's this skate ramp in the middle of this hip-hop party.
And it would be like a bunch of like the white New York City kids skating for a whole crowd of like, you know, hip downtown people, and then just like straight, you know, hip-hop hoods from New York City.
Back then, it was like a unique, you know, subset.
As street skaters from the East Coast gained notoriety, more West Coast skaters flocked to the streets of New York.
Going to the tunnel with your skateboard, and you got some model chicks jockeying you. To me, I was like, what, dude? This is the chains from Frisco, boy.
I remember that, and I remember the like hip hop dudes and thugs like tripping out. I'm like, what the hell is this?
And I could walk up and there's this huge line. He's like, I'm like, dude, how are we getting? He's like, don't worry about it, bro. Skateboard. And we walk up and the guy's like, oh, you got skate? Let us right in. I was like, what?
Not only did the mini ramp at the tunnel serve as entertainment for skateboarders, it was also a platform for hip-hop's up-and-coming stars.
The stage in the Tunnel Club was a fucking mini ramp, and before Tupac, Biggie, Gangstar, and all the niggas went on stage, we were skating the ramp, and then we stopped, they performed, and we skated the ramp.
As skateboarding in New York gained popularity, photographer Larry Clark began documenting the movement.
And then we all start noticing this like weird, creepy old guy lurking around the banks taking pictures of everybody.
Like, who is this big old dude coming over here giving us beers and cigarettes and hanging out with us?
Clark's interest in this rising culture eventually led to a feature film entitled Kids, starring the same skaters he documented.
And we were like, all right, that's cool, but the thing that we didn't count on is that Kids ended up being the biggest commercial for Zoo York you could ever hope.
It helped cross it into mainstream observation.
Like, they documented our life.
Stephen Callis, you know, straight up.
Somebody's writing graffiti or tagging people's boards or drawing on their grip tape, you know, and everybody else is watching Mark Gonzalez in the Blind video. They showed us rolling up blunts, which what we really did, hanging out, skating as a posse, talking shit.
Watch where the fuck you skating at. Watch where you up, yo. What? What I said, yo. What? Forget it, enough.
The culture of teenage kids at the time was also becoming a bigger focus of attention, and not just directly because of skateboarding, but because of all the things that kids were into at that time.
I sort of tie Zoo York and Kids, the movie, together. That one moment where that snapshot of Lower East Side subversive youth, I guess, became a popular, trendy thing.
78 miles away, in the city of brotherly love, a young kid would emerge from the North Philadelphia projects, further propelling the face of skateboarding.
Peppy kept saying, "You gotta see this kid Stevie, you gotta see this kid Stevie. He's really sick."
He was very much on par with Kareem, just sort of in a different time era.
Stevie was one of those kids that I just knew, like right away from seeing him skate, that he's gonna be one of the best.
He was really small and he was called Little Stevie, and I thought that's like, okay, here's a little bit of like image involved with it too.
People that may have not known about Kareem or known about myself and the impact that we made in the skateboarding industry, then came Stevie Williams and was like, Stevie Williams, this, you know, black kid from Philly that's just thugged out.
At a time when being black and riding a skateboard would lead to ridicule, a chance encounter would open the floodgates to millions of new skaters.
I ran into these two kids that was skateboarding. And I never really tripped off of them. I just like, damn, wow, some black skateboarders or whatever. And then one day, like, I kind of bumped into them. They was teaching this other kid how to do an ollie.
I challenged my friend Hill to teach Steve how to ollie. And he said, you know, Save 2 will learn how to ollie before Steve.
I was like, all right, that's what's up.
So Steve got the board, we gave him the board, and I won the bet.
Every time I seen them dudes, I was like, yo, let me use your board, let me ride your skateboard. And they was like, you gotta get your own skateboard. He's like, you gotta get a professional skateboard. And I'm like, what the hell is a professional skateboard? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, you know, the ones that go like that. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the pro joint. How much them joints cost? He's like, oh, about $150. I'm like, damn, $150, that's a lot of money.
I'm from West Philly, he's from North Philly, Diamond Street projects, probably just as worse as my projects, all types of crazy. I just really didn't think he would really take it that serious.
Eventually I caught up, and that's how I got into skateboarding, just like a bet and just like being determined. I was like, yo, I'm gonna get me a professional skateboard, you know what I mean?
And I remember Stevie, and he had on this wife beater, and it was all dirty and shit. And he was just like, yo, Jamal, man, these motherfuckers is trying to play me. You know what I'm saying? They think I'm soft, and this and this and this, and jerking around with the companies and stuff. And I was like, Stevie, come here, bro. I was like, yo, dig it, just skate, man. Stevie, just skate.
I like the style, and I like the way he skated and what he skated. His whole career, he's never needed to like jump down big rails and huge stairs. He just skates like ledges and flat and does it real well.
He kick flipped and caught him like up under his feet and then did tricks like backside tail slide, or 360 flips were really good.
Stevie became good because of something in him that did not give a fuck about the ridicule. Like I think he loved skating a little bit more than paying attention to the criticism that he got.
With Stevie's success, kids from all walks of life noticed a new outlet via skateboarding.
He didn't have to alter his style or his swagger in any sort of way. So I think that showed other kids in the hood like, yo, shit, he looks just like me, but he's got the ill skills. So, I mean, it's a possibility. It's not just a wicked jump shot or being an MC no more. There's another avenue out.
My mom, she used to tell me, she was always telling me to quit, because she used to go to the bars and the people around the neighborhood used to laugh at her because her son rode a skateboard. All my cousins used to be like, look at your pants. What you got them crazy ass pants on, and what you doing? How you ride a skateboard? How you white? Like, I'm just like, damn.
I didn't see Stevie for some years. This car pulls up and Stevie jumps out the car. This big old hockey jersey on his chain. And he's like, yo, Jamal. And I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, yo, that's my car. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, no, I'm skating. Like, I'm skating for like DC and stuff. I'm doing these things. Yes. And I'm like, that's what it is.
Got that call, boom. Yo, you go pick the Range Rover up. The whole day, the whole shit changed. Everything changed. Go around the way, they're like, damn, who that? You know what I mean? Go around my cousin way, and there's other drug dealers around there. It was one dude, had the same color car as me. But I went up there one day and somebody ran up on the car thinking it was him. And they was like, oh, my bad fam, my bad fam. So I knew I was in a whole different category. So I went around my cousin way. He was like, damn, I wish I would have started skating with you. I'm like, oh, but she was laughing though.
That's what it is, you know? Stevie Williams, I love you, my good brother. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You know, 13 circles in the mix, only one Jesus Christ.
In the hood, you know, materialistic things symbolize success sometimes. But where I'm from, I could still be living with my mom in the room I grew up in. As long as I'm pushing that Range Rover, people see you doing your thing. So I kind of took that as like, all right, I am doing my thing, and people was feeling me on that, you know what I'm saying? Oh, that 97 Platinum Range Rover, it's vicious. Sheesh. Shut them down.
Skateboarding was further propelled by the release of the video game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Skating now is much more accepted because probably of Tony Hawk, literally.
You know what I think opened up skateboarding a lot to all the communities too as well was the video game.
My first game came together, Activision called me and said, hey, we heard you're shopping around a skate game. We actually are working on a skate game. And I went up to their office in Santa Monica and saw what they were working on, and I said, this is it, this is what I want to do. My greatest concern in doing a video game was keeping it authentic in terms of tricks and looks and locations and things like that. But I allowed all the guys that we brought into the game to have their influence on it.
I was doing the 1 foot grinding with the ghetto blaster, all that stuff, you know? And so video games are open to all communities, you know what I mean? So if you couldn't ride the skateboard physically, you could get on the game and play it.
You know, at the end of the day, skateboarding is probably one of the most difficult sports to achieve in. That's the reason why there's not a lot of people that do it. It's not for everybody, so if you can include more people, all the better.
There's been other skate games in the past, but just to like, not only have Tony make a game, but Tony was cool enough to like help bring the rest of us up.
Before that, the only people that really appreciated skating were the skaters themselves. And so it was very much, not a novelty, but a niche sport. And now, there are plenty of people that like to sit back on the couch and watch the X Games or watch the Do Tour and go, wow, that's amazing, you know, never picking up a skateboard on their own, but appreciating everything about it.
So I'm skating around, you know, Brooklyn area, and it's not the nicest neighborhood, and I see like a group of thugs, you know, and they're just staring at me, and I'm like, man, should I cross the street, or that's gonna look bitch, I can't cross the street, so I gotta walk through them. So I'm walking through, and they're staring at me, mad dogging me, I'm kind of keeping my ground, looking at them, and we're all talking like, hey, come here a second, come here. I'm like, shit, what's up, you know, and they're like looking at me, I'm like, oh man, I'm about to get jacked, and they're all, you're that fool from Tony Hawk Pro Skater, aren't you? You know, and I'm like, oh shit, like, yeah, what's up? Oh, no, check him out, let's get a photo. You know, so they all gathered me up and they're taking, so here I am, think I'm about to get jacked and jump in Brooklyn, and these guys want to take a picture with me.
As skateboarding became more prevalent in mainstream culture, an up-and-coming producer named Pharrell Williams would team up with Zoo York to do an ad promoting his new album.
When you would talk about skateboarding, I would tell him about, you know, my experience in it. So Pharrell appeared in the Zoo York ad.
That Zoo York ad, that made me feel the best.
When Zoo did the ads with them and stuff, I just thought it looked really bad, and it said no posers, and I thought they looked like posers in it. You know what I mean? Because Pharrell really doesn't skate.
Granted, they're not doing like inward hard flips to backside crooked grinds, but you know, a lot of people have that like, Pharrell can't skate, but like if you've ever skated, you can't just hop on a skateboard and do an invert. You know, it's like you got to work at it.
I mean, I'm like campaigning for it.
Yeah.
I'm just a supporter and just trying to provide the same opportunity that I wanted that I didn't get.
Pharrell being on MTV, rolling around, you know, the whole Zoo York kind of combo deal, and you know, Lupe a little bit. Having those guys be who they are in the public image, talking about skateboarding. Yeah, man, it definitely pulls in kids from the inner cities.
I think it kind of was for real, cause like after all the ice cream and all the BBC and all that kind of stuff, and like Lupe Fiasco, all that kind of stuff, they just have a skateboard cause like, oh, this rapper said I skate or whatever, and that he likes skating, so I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. People don't know that about Tommy Guerrero. Like, Tommy Guerrero is an incredible musician.
Yeah.
And like, if you listen to his music, you will be blown away.
Yeah.
And you're like, this can't be. The media would like you to think that like most people are like one-track minded and can only do one thing.
Yeah.
but it's not true.
NERD, like Skateboard P, like dude's my friend, like Pharrell's my friend. I work with him. He did bring skateboarding to the forefront. It doesn't matter if dude can get down as good as so-and-so or so-and-so or so-and-so. Like, he's bringing the sport, like, I think to a bigger audience, you know what I mean? He's just making it better for everybody.
Expanding on his passion for skateboarding, Pharrell started the clothing line BBC and Ice Cream, his skateboard shoe line. The first skater Pharrell signed to Ice Cream was Terry Kennedy.
TK was just this little kid from Long Beach that just happened to come across skateboarding in Cherry Park. He was the kid that showed up and tried everybody's board that actually started skating.
Pharrell started saying skateboard P and all this and that. So that definitely like brought an initial like attention to it, and he's someone who actually skateboards and is good at it, and so he's someone who can show them who those people can look to.
Skateboarding, you just have to have will, mind power, dedication, and pace yourself, and find some people who will help you grow, you know, so you can have a new lane to make it out the hood on the skateboard, and TK is a prime example as our menu.
The playing field has been leveled in skateboarding, you know, in terms of what race you are, what culture you're from, or what city you came from. It's open to anyone now.
There's like only been a few black skaters who have found success as pros. And I do think that Terry represents everything. He's all encompassing in that, you know, he has the interesting backstory, and he comes from an underprivileged environment, and he is really truly succeeding and revered and respected by his peers.
Family, outside of my mom and grandmother, they always were trying to push me to play sports. You know, it's common. You know, coming up in Long Beach, Poly High, they sent most people to the NFL, NBA. So it's like, they was looking at me like, here go a ticket right here, even when I was like in, you know, middle school or whatever.
I thought he really gonna be a basketball player. But when we turned around, he was into skateboarding.
It's hard for TK growing up. Me too. But he managed to do what he do. Skateboard, that's his goal.
We moved all over Long Beach, 21st and Island, 10th and Lime, 10th Street in Ohio. I was in foster care for a little bit too. I was young, I was just running around the streets, running around the corners, just being bad.
In November of 1999, after a lifelong battle with drug addiction, Terry's mother passed away due to heart failure.
I know she's in a better place, and she's just smiling, looking down on me like she always knew it.
Right after she passed, I just started getting boxes of like boards and clothes and shoes and stuff sent to my house.
This how hyped I was. I got this stuff, laid it all out in the front of the living room, and took pictures of it. Like if I just was never gonna see this shit again, I was just so hyped.
I knew he was gonna make it when he was just determined. Like I said, every day, if he did ditch school, he was faithfully on his corner. That corner was like his second period. Whatever period he ditched, it was that period right there on that corner. It was out here till about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And if he was out here by himself, he was out here by himself.
Coming up in Long Beach, everybody in high school gang bang.
I shot before, so you know. Not hard. I'm sitting at the bus stop, got shot, so it's hard around here.
My brothers do it, cousins, and everybody. So for me not to do it, like I'm saying, it just gave people an invitation to fuck with me. And then on top of that, like, oh, you skateboard? Like, nigga, why are you even doing this shit? Why are you even getting beat up behind this shit? Or why are you even taking a stand for this shit? Like, you tripping. Like, let this shit be. But in my eyes, I was like, hell no, man.
With TK's success, money quickly followed.
People hated the fact that, like, I really was making it in it. Like, just hated it. Like, cause they little brother wanted to beat me now, and sister looked up to me now, and I'm with Pharrell, I'm with Bam, and I'm with, you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like man, that's the kid I hated on all through high school, and man, fuck him.
He got a nice car and I ride in it. Somebody might say, you know, she thinks she, you know, but this is the truth. She thinks she did, she thinks she did. I don't think myself anything. I worked all my life.
It was crazy too, is the night the Bam show aired, they shot my house up. Like the night this shit aired, I remember like Grandma gather around like it's about to come on. Right after that shit, niggas shot up our house.
A lot of threats, you know, like, and he said, we're on our way to St. Mary's Hospital right now.
That shit was scary. And my jaw snapped. I was like, fuck.
I just lost it, I don't know.
I thought I was gone.
When I walked into the emergency room, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know was his head off or what. And so I'm looking so hard until I could even see him. I'm just looking. And he was saying, Grandma, here I am. And let me tell you something. The bullet went through his jaw right here. Didn't break a tooth.
It could have killed the nerves in my mouth and everything, but it just got stuck luckily, and it didn't like hit none of my throat or none of that shit. Cause I could have been fooled.
He was skating with the bullet. Because he just hanging there. The doc wasn't ready to take it out right then, you know. So, you know, he just wanted to get all his swelling, everything around. So went back, the bullet just jumped out like that.
I still had people that ran with me and stood behind me no matter what. You know, because it's just like, nigga, we love you, T. Like, we been growing up just because you skate don't mean you're a different person.
His older brother said that, you know, well, you know, we got Terry's back. But I don't believe in all of that.
That's when I learned, like, I got to stop hanging around because it started turning into that. Like, dude, we'll do anything for you. This just because we don't know how to repay you. Like, you got everything you want. Like, nigga, we gangbang, so we'll do it, nigga. We'll shoot this nigga. We'll do this. And it's just like, that's when I was like, enough is enough. Like, I can't come around, man.
I mean, you come in your hood doing some shit that they don't understand or that they associate with, like, you know, another culture or another race, those things are gonna come up. I mean, it's quite natural, but I mean, like, you know, TK became good because there's something in him that didn't give a fuck about it.
Terry is just another kind of dude, man. He's just the epitome of making something out of nothing. And so many people, especially in the hood, are looking up to Terry as, like, he's so popular in the culture.
I think he started a trend in Long Beach because, you know, he's from Long Beach and he made it, so they probably think, oh, I could be the next TK.
As far as the hood goes, you get on the TV, you accept that you made it. So after he got on the TV with it, it became official, like, oh, okay, well, now nobody can make fun of me.
And that's my little cousin right there.
Little Phil.
Yeah. Phil! Look at that.
It's game.
Where you going, man? Where you come from? You here? Damn, that's what's up with your dad at.
Huh?
Your dad?
Home.
Yeah, you got some money, man?
Nah.
I go here right now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Your birthday passed?
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday. What you want, man?
It don't matter. Skateboards.
All right. Well, I get it.
rolling with this fucking link.
Well, call me. I get it. All right. I love you, man. Be safe.
Amy, cuz.
That's my cousin right there, man. That's the shit I'm talking about. Fuck yeah. That made my day, man.
The movement.
God damn, that made my day right there.
The kids is definitely like psyched to skateboard, and seeing these urban people do it, yeah, seeing like minorities do it, yeah, it gives them, they feel more accepted of doing it.
People like TK and people like Darren Harper and Stevie Williams, you know, you on TV doing this or doing that, and then they find the original, like what you came from. Oh, I'm a skater, or he's a skater. And then they get that outlook, you know what I'm saying? They're like, wow, you know what I'm saying? We can do this.
I used to do bets in the clubs with girls. Like, I give you 3 chances if you guess what I do. If you guess it, I'll buy you a bottle of Cristal, something like that. Nobody would get it. It was just like a game to play, you know what I mean? But since skateboarding has blown up so much, I can't play that game no more.
See, like, some girls now, they're like, oh, you skateboard? That's hot. Like, oh, that's cool. Oh, you're a skateboarder? Oh, I like, because when I grew up, it wasn't like that. Oh, you skateboard? Cool.
TK, like, gives, like, you know, say a kid, like, maybe a watch or something, like he could tell his mom, I could be a professional skateboarder if I want to.
The one thing that Pharrell got me with, man, and he had me like stuck with, was the fact of me uplifting my society and my culture and people from my neighborhood. I mean, we can make a statement on a skateboard much as possible, but outside of that, you still need something. You still need to be able to draw people in and say, you know what, I respect that. First car I bought was a Jeep Cherokee. I always wanted a Jeep, and I put D's on it.
Then he got the money together. He bought the loft downtown.
To me, like, I feel like that was probably one of the best investments I'd have done outside of buying a house I bought in Victorville, because of like what they're gonna do with downtown LA. So I got that spot and we just rent it out now.
There's more exposure on the mainstream level. It's kind of more accepted culturally and still interesting. So there's still some growth potential there. I think it's just a variety of factors, but I think, you know, there's a lot of young people in this world and skateboarding's interesting to them.
The biggest change in the last 20 years of skateboarding would be the money.
Skateboarders can make money. You can make a legitimate earning in life off of riding your skateboard.
Skateboarding at this point is you have to be a business person regardless of what level you're involved with.
There's fashion designers, you know, there's an accountant, there's a general manager, there's lawyers, like there's so many business opportunities. It's a regular business. You know, you can do whatever you want in the skateboard industry pretty much.
You take a job for pay, and I already do what I love doing, and if someone wants to pay me for that, I'm more than willing to do that.
At this point in skateboarding, the sky's the limit. There's so much you can do with skateboarding. Whether you want to make it within our industry, being a professional, riding a skateboard, there's always a job for that. There's design opportunities with it. You could become a shoe designer, a clothing designer. You could be a photographer that shoots the ads. You can be a web guy that develops the websites for a company. You could be a sales rep that sells the gear. There's so many opportunities within our industry now that you don't only have to be a professional skateboarder to make money off this industry.
I know they love skateboarding, but they love it, but at the same time, they do it for the money too.
The main thing I love about skating, like through all these years, how much it's changed, is the ability to make more money at it.
Having an agent, I've made a lot of money, and I don't feel I've ever sold my soul in doing so.
Like baseball, there's no minimum. Like you don't get in the industry and just get this. There's no cap off either, which is cool. It's an endless opportunity. Like you can, you know, Tony Hawk's worth over $1 billion, so you can take it there or you can not.
With skateboarding's mainstream popularity, its fashion has reached beyond the skateboarding community.
Now you go through the trade show and there's all walks of life, all ethnicities. It's black, brown, white. I feel fashion's a much bigger component in skateboarding than anything else. That's been the biggest change in skateboarding. There's actually fashions to choose from.
Now it's like, just as well as we go out to get dressed to go do something like hit the club or hit the movies, whatever, we didn't carry that onto our skateboards now.
People look at television as far as what they're gonna wear and all of that stuff. But since skateboarding is getting so much TV time now, that made it a trend. That made it a fashion thing now.
It's not a trend. Once you open that door, it doesn't really close.
The homie TK came on our block with all like the ice cream stuff. And you feel me? It was in the hood, you feel me? That's back there. Everybody was just wearing all that baggy stuff. But when he came through with boxes, you feel me? And he was skating. Everybody thought like, oh, that's a good trend. So they just started jumping on skateboards, started wearing like tight clothes.
Oh, they don't even wear khaki suits no more. They don't even think about khaki suits no more. It's all about true religion. You know what I mean? That's total difference.
They willing to take that chance, you know what I'm saying? With, like you said, with the tight fit and all that, they willing to. We wasn't taking chances like that. It was just sagging going on, and everybody wanted to be the hardest motherfucker coming out of their neighborhoods and all that.
Everybody loves fashion. Everybody likes to be fly. It's all about that splash, that swag splash. You gotta love it, and every walk of life has its own type of fashion.
It's so evident that the urban industry is jumping over to skateboarding.
Looking at it just like from 2 years ago, everybody clothes a lot baggier than, you know what I mean, now. Now they true religion's on. antique denims, like all that type stuff was more slimmed down, and all like I feel like all them type of threads, they came from skateboarding.
Lil Wayne, he wears skate stuff. He be wearing DC stuff in his interviews. It's cool. They're just fans of the sport, and they definitely bring attention to it. So I don't look at it as like, I'll leave it. You know, it's good. It's good for us.
Lil Wayne, on the cover of Rides magazine, he's wearing our Misfits diamond shirt. That was huge. It's like, holy shit, this dude's on the cover wearing my shirt. You open up the magazine, there's like 5 or 6 pages of him just wearing the shirt, and they actually talk about the shirt in the magazine.
For me, it's always cool to see non-skaters buying into the skateboard style. Not just to make more money off it, but just to influence a wider group of people is always cool.
A lot of these kids, they're doing it now as a fad, but it's good because some of the kids are actually gonna become really good at skateboarding and fall in love with it. And they're gonna be the next generation of skaters.
Of course I'm making money doing a commercial for Lincoln. Of course I'm making money hosting for the X Games, but I'm doing tastefully and I'm doing it correctly.
A skateboarder makes money by whatever brand or sponsorship he rides for or whatever. When I'm wearing my gear, whatever it is, DGK, Gold Wheels, whatever it is, one of my sponsors, and I'm out there promoting. So when they see it, if it looks cool on me, it's fresh, Lupe might see it on Darren Harper and say, oh, I must admit, he's looking kind of fly in that DGK shirt.
You got all these people who come into skateboarding and want to take a slice of the pie, but if they don't know anything about it, it'll never fucking work. So they start throwing money at people who do know about it, you know, and that's how they get hip to it and they become credible and valid and stuff like that, because they gotta have people who know what's going on and what skateboarding's about.
Kids today are not living it, they just do it. You know what I mean? You don't do it. You know, Pharrell don't do music, he is music. You know what I mean? So anybody who's an aspiring producer, you have to live it, man. You know what I mean? Forget what he's making on a track, forget about his boat. He do it because he loves it. All that comes later.
I think street skating has made skating just become huge and stuff, and I think it's great because there's a lot of talented individuals that are coming out of the ghettos. You know, the beginning of being a black skater was a little hard. It was a majority white sport. Until I came along, there wasn't any black skaters in the mainstream that they could sort of say, oh, I can do that. I mean, I never thought I was making a statement as being black, but a couple times when I felt that a race card was sort of dealt to me, it helped me skate better. You know, if you're sort of angry and you're like, oh yeah, you know, you think that, you know, I can't be as good as like just someone else. There wasn't as many little kids back then like there's now. I think it's crossed over, you know, poor kids, rich kids, all races. Skateboarding is just amazing. Some of the kids I skate with here, they're like 15. I quit for 15 years, you know, I mean, they're like, you skate, you know, I mean, I'm like 45.
Skateboarding is definitely a way out of the hood, you know what I mean? Because it builds character in you and it shows you life, you know what I mean? You have to fall and get back up and try it all over again.
It's created a whole new lane and a whole new opportunity for kids who maybe never thought that this was even feasible for them.
When you just look at it, if you think that skateboarding is just skateboarding, then you're just looking at it one-sided, when it's a whole bunch of different avenues that open up from just one situation.
It helps me calming down, not to get in no fights for no reason.
Yeah, since skateboarding came around, I've seen less crime, everything seems to drop.
What up?
Skating? I'm a dog. It's still pretty much the same. Like you have Bloods and Crips, you have different skateboarders that are competing against the same things, but it's just a different way of doing it. It's pretty much the same thing, but they just not dying from it.
I don't see it dying down no time soon. Now we got kids up in Harlem from off my block, got skateboards and practice skateboard tricks. I'm not saying there's a lot of them, but they are out there, and that wasn't happening 10, 15 years ago when I was coming up in the hood.
The best thing about it is that these skaters are the ones that call the shots.
You know, even if the money's coming from Nike or from Pepsi or wherever it's coming from, they trust in the street cred and the intuition of the guys that came up living it.
You have to have a passion for it, and your motive has to be a great skateboarder, and then the other stuff will be added to you.
Skateboarding can help you. It can make you fucking king of the world or your own world, or it can, you know, chew you up and spit you out.
Skating definitely is like the university of diversity.
It's so diverse now, man. And it wasn't like that back then.
And skateboarding makes me be all that I can be. Everything, around the whole board.
To see somebody currently doing it is good because it turns on this whole new generation of younger kids onto skateboarding as well and makes them feel that they can do it too because all these other skaters are doing it.
I just know that I want to every day be better than I was yesterday. I want to be the best I can be at all times.
When I grew up, you couldn't look at your parents or like some teacher or some fucking counselor for that matter and tell them you want to be a professional skateboarder. They would laugh at you. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, you know? I think I had said it at one point, you know? I would say that and I wanted to be a drummer, and these people would look at me like I was crazy.
It's still gnarly, it's still raw, it's still brutal, and it's still just as fun to anyone as it was since its inception, I believe.